Yo, this was one of those games where if you were at Chase Center and you went to go grab a drink, there's a little bit of a line, had to use the restroom afterwards. You could have legit gone from like a 2-point game to 17 that quick. The Warriors roll 114-83 in a game that felt a lot closer than that. We learned a lot about the Warriors tonight, some good, some bad, with no Steph Curry on the floor. And how about Al Horford? 4 threes. Let's talk about a lot. Let's talk about a win on today's show.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How we feeling, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast out there. Yeah, baby. Big win for the Warriors today, 114-83. Snaps a skid and snaps a very long losing streak to the Indiana Pacers. Things we're getting into on today's show. We'll start with the fact that Steph Curry was out, so everything we saw tonight is, again, based on a rotation that we hope doesn't happen often, but we can expect it at least a little bit moving forward. Is Curry, per Steve Kerr, should be good to go Tuesday against Oklahoma City, and they will need him a lot more than they needed him tonight. Jimmy Butler was not out tonight. He was outstanding. We'll get into his performance. Will Richard, who would have thought the 56th pick in the NBA draft would turn into this much of a storyline at the beginning of the year? But this dude can play. You have a redraft, and I promise you, that's a first-round dude. First-round dude. And then serious question marks about the rotations, a lot of which have to do with Will Richard gunning for some spots and some serious questions that should be asked. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. My name's Charlie Walter. What's going on, everyone? We're riding Stag tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us on Locked On Dubs. Pacers had nobody. The exact injury report, because it's more funny if I give you the exact thing person by person instead of just trying to explain a few dudes that were out. All right, let's start with Talon Peter, I believe is his name, questionable with some groin soreness. Heal up, Talon. I don't know much about Talon Peter. We're not worried about him. But Nesmith, out. Pascal Siakam, out. Furphy, out. Quinten Jackson, who cooked you last game, out. Benedict Mathurin, out. Cam Jones, draft pick, out. TJ McConnell, out. Obi Toppin, out. Tyrese Halliburton, out. If your guess was 9.5 on the over-under of outs said today, we'll give you 2 more for good. Out. All right, we did it. So, yeah. If you lost tonight's game to the Indiana Pacers, even without Steph Curry, I wish I had the John Taffer queued up. Shut it down. Shut it down. You had to win this game. And early, the Warriors were not making it easy for themselves. They were up 48-41 at halftime. It was not pretty. They were getting good looks, I thought, but they couldn't hit anything. Pods was just a bricklayer today. Kuminga, oh, God, we didn't see any of Kuminga in the second half, really. Kerr said after the game, it wasn't his night. The reporter was definitely praying. He was trying to get some meat on the bone, and Kerr just left it as simply, it was not his night. But he didn't play at all. And the Warriors started winning by a ton when he wasn't playing. That's just a fact. Not his night. Did rebound, though, which I guess if you want to take away any positive, the hustling on the glass. 37% in the first half for the Dubs, 34% for the Pacers. Again, was not beautiful. But Will Richard, once he came into the game and he had 15 points, it just looked like things were starting to click. Then they went back to a lineup without Will Richard, and then things weren't clicking. The players that were the most involved tonight, I mean, Jimmy Butler was the best player on the floor. He had 21, 9, and 7, plus a couple of steals, of blocks, and only 1 turnover, a block, 1 turnover. 10 of 15 from the floor, didn't shoot a 3, didn't really get to the line a ton, but he was a surgeon out there. And frankly, you want to talk about playoff Jimmy, tonight's version of Jimmy Butler was, we're not losing this game, Jimmy. Because first half, when nothing was falling, there was a chance that Indiana could have taken the lead and, gone up a few. And Jimmy Butler made sure that never happened. And Quinten Post helped make sure that never happened. He was only 4 of 10 and 2 of 7 when it was all said and done. But it felt like he played a better game than that because a lot of it was early. And in his 24 minutes, I feel like he had, 10 in the first half, something along those lines. So he was big. Buddy Hield had some moments in the second half, knocking down a few shots. Moses Moody had 13. We mentioned Will Richard. And then Al Horford. How about 4 threes today? 4 of his 6 after throwing up a nothing burger the other night and really having a tough shooting start to the season. But we do know that Al Horford, for his career, is upwards of 40%, close to it in his best seasons. So you see how important he is today. 4 of 6. Jimmy Butler seemed like he had a real good connection, find him in the corner. And that's big if they can get him knocking down some shots. But it all started with Jimmy Butler really just willing the team to at least a start that allowed them to gain a little bit of separation until everyone started picking it up. And by everyone, I mean everyone that played. Because Kuminga and Podziemski, in Podziemski's final numbers, he had 14 and 6. So you look at the stat sheet, and it looks like a pretty decent Podziemski night. I did not think he was good at all. 1 of 6 from 3, threw up some bad shots. It wasn't a thing of beauty out there by any means. Only had 1 assist, so the connecting that we talk about, it wasn't really there. Did have the nice steal in the breakaway layup late in the first quarter. It was. But there weren't there weren't many moments aside from that stood out to me from Podziemski. And then I mentioned Kuminga was bad. And why that's important to me. We give the young guys slack all the time, and we give them the benefit of the doubt for being inconsistent because they're young, right? They haven't gotten these minutes. That's an argument that Kolsky always brings on this show is, Kuminga needs X, Y, and Z amount of minutes. And I don't know if I've said that with Podziemski because he frankly gets 32 minutes every night, it seems like. So there's really no point in saying that. But you watch someone like Will Richard in his 19 minutes tonight, less than Kuminga, less than Podziemski, 19 minutes. And he goes for 15 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a steal, doesn't turn it over, doesn't really need the ball in his hands to make things happen. He's cutting, he's rebounding, he's hitting the glass, he's getting to the line 8 times, knocking down 7 free throws. Here's a hot take. Clip it. Will Richard's better than both those guys right now. Oh, he said it. Yeah, I said it. Now, overall potential, does Will Richard have a higher ceiling than Jonathan Kuminga? I'm stuck in the moment right now. This is reactionary Chuck coming out because Kuminga's been bad now for 2 games and a half, but he was so good at the beginning of the year. It doesn't make sense. So maybe Kerr's right when he says it's just not his night. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that Steph Curry's not out there, and it obviously makes things a little bit more difficult in terms of his facilitating as a whole. But in terms of his scoring, we've seen him take over games in last year's playoffs when Steph wasn't out there. This is that kind of game. This is the Wolves game right here where he can go out and give you 30. And he took 9 shots. He took 5 threes. He took 6 free throws and only made 3 of them. He only had 2 assists. He had 1 turnover. Underwhelming game from him. And again, you lump Podziemski in there. Those 2 were not good. And frankly, I didn't think Draymond Green was good at all. And he did not look like he was having fun out there. There were times where he was telling Kuminga to cut. He looked frustrated. Just doesn't look to be having as much fun when Steph's not out there. And I thought Jimmy at the beginning of the game looked a little bit pissed off. He called off Pods at one point, or Pods had an open shot, and he said, nope, we're going, Al, take it, Al. So, again, it's interesting, though, that Pat Spencer, with all due respect, who had 2 points and 0 for 3, is getting 16 minutes and Will Richard only 19. The rotation doesn't make a ton of sense. Again, Kerr's probably experimenting. He's going mad scientist right now to figure out what's working, what's not. You won by final score 31 points after outscoring Indiana 39-18 in the fourth. So it was a 10-point game entering the fourth, but Moody hit that 4-point play late in the third So realistically, it was like a 2-possession game until the late stages of the third quarter. And then the Warriors really stepped on it. And I thought Moses was, he was solid. I think Moses has been more solid, frankly, than Podziemski and Kuminga the last 3 games. But what's so difficult is it's an 11-game season, and 7 of those games, the first 7, the games with Steph Curry on the floor, Kuminga was so damn good. So I can't get too overreactionary. But Will Richard's been consistently very good every time he's out there. He was consistently very good at Florida. You take away that 56th pick next to his name, and you switch him with Ace Bailey at 5 overall, and you'd be thinking this guy's, you'd be saying start him. We used our 5th pick on this guy, start him. He looks the part. But you're always a little hesitant when you see 56th and the handles don't look to be his strong suit. And the 3 was 0 of 2 today, but he doesn't need to shoot threes. He gave you 15 with 7 of them from the line, 7 of 8. Crashes the glass. Plays good D. Getting in passing lanes. I like his game a lot. Anyways, first block rant over. When we return, let's get into some more on this game. One of the things I want to get into was I think Steve Kerr is not happy with how this team is playing right now. And I say I think because we have audio evidence that he's not happy with the team's playing right now. We'll hear from Coach Kerr. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now is a great time to download the FanDuel app. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and do we have a deal for you with the NBA being back? Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So if you miss the start of the next game, or if you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, combine your same game parlay, your live bets into a same game parlay, and you can get a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. I'm going to a game here soon, and there are a lot of sites that you can get out there and find some tickets, but there's only one app that you should be on, and you don't need to go on the World Wide Web to find it. Because with basketball season here, nothing beats a service that is just easy to jump on and get the tickets that you want with no hidden fees. Stress-free. That's what you like. One of my favorite things is their in-app seat view feature where you get the full panoramic view, also the no hidden fees at checkout. And they're going to beat any price. Plus, the closer you get to tip off, cheaper your tickets are. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. All right, let's get back to the show.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right, so the Warriors win it by 31, and a couple things I would like to get into. One, Draymond Green did not get a ton of run late in the second half until the Warriors had really put it away. And I mentioned that I didn't think he played a great game at all. 4 turnovers, did hit a 3 at the end of the shot clock early. Aside from that, didn't really shoot. Only had 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Look, no one on Indy was scaring you tonight. I mentioned all the players that were out. How about the players that were in? Isaiah Jackson, Jarris Walker, Jay Huff, Andrew Nembhard, best player for the Pacers, Ben Shepherd, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Cody Martin, Tony Bradley, Monte Morris, Ray J. Dennis, Talon Peter. I thought Talon Peter was out. They lied. They tried to pull a fast one on us and go against the injury report and pull out a ringer, and Talon Peter couldn't get it done. He was 0-3 from the floor. Sorry about it. For the Warriors, Jimmy Butler had 21, Green had 3, Kuminga had 5, 14 for Post, 14 for Podziemski, 4 for Trace Jackson Davis, 3 for Santos, 12 for Horford, 8 for Buddy Hield, 13 for Moses Moody, 2 for Pat Spencer, and 15 for Will Richard. I do think, though, in a game like this, you got to give some props to Steve Kerr for pulling the guys that just didn't look like their heads were in the game. I mean, Green and Kuminga, they're your starters. I'm sure they're going to be your starters next game. But, I mean, I would have liked to have seen more Will Richard. But aside from that, playing Moses Moody more than you did, because he was at, I think, 9 minutes in the first half, 14 in the second. Play the dudes that are doing better out there. I'm sure a lot of people in the chat right now saying, why is Podziemski playing so much with 32 minutes? Look, if Will Richard's the guy that's getting more run than Podziemski, especially when Curry's back, go for it right now. Meritocracy, he's playing better in all aspects, in my opinion. Only needed 8 shots to score 1 more point than Podziemski did. Only needed 19 minutes to be more effective than Podziemski was in his 32 minutes. The only thing that Pods had more of was rebounds, but from time to time, Pods goes up there with the trees and snatches it from his own guys. And I'm a huge Pods guy. We know this. I just think Will Richard's playing better basketball right now. And I would love for him to get the minutes that warrant, I guess, the analysis that he isn't good enough to be getting more minutes than some of these other guys, despite them being the veterans. And by the way, veterans, he's as old as Kuminga is. He may be older than Kuminga is based on the calendar. We'd have to go to the tapes, but it's close. This guy's played a lot of basketball. He's trustworthy right now. Has he had a bad game yet? Like, truly. And I know I'm glazing the 56th pick hard. And he's not VJ Edgecombe. He's not Cedric Coward. He's not Cooper Flagg. But what he is getting better every single time he's out there and getting more run for the most part. I mean, played 14 minutes against the Lakers, hit both his shots, didn't turn it over, had a 3, had 5 points, whatever. Didn't do much. Then against Denver in his 17 minutes, shoots 40%, hits a 3, has 5 rebounds, 3 assists, doesn't turn it over. Again, this isn't someone that's a ball stopper that needs the ball in his hands, that's disrupting anything. He's kind of just someone that seems like he goes out there, has some emotion. I mean, that's for sure. After he had that steal and breakaway that led to a timeout, he gave gave a little shoulder roll flex and said, "Get off me, Indy. You guys could have taken me. Maybe even twice you could have taken me, and you didn't. And I'm glad to be in the Bay." But then against Portland, he had 25 minutes and looked good in those 25 minutes, 7, 9 minutes, 6 minutes, 12 minutes. Like, he hasn't been getting a lot of run. He finally gets the run against Sacramento, 35 minutes. He goes 10 of 15 from the floor, 5 of 8 from 3, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 30 points. He's a positive every time he's out there. He turned it over 1 time in that game. Hasn't turned it over in his last 40 minutes of basketball, 40 minutes plus. 5 of 10 against Denver for 12, 4 of 8 against Indy for 12. Again, doesn't turn it over, has 4 rebounds each game, couple assists. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we messing with this guy's minutes? Until I see something that shows me that Will Richard isn't one of the dudes, start playing him as one of the dudes, man. He's good. He's good. And Steve Kerr said he's good. So I don't really get it, but I guess he's easing into it. And if this jerking around continues, I'm going to be like the Kuminga people out there that say, what the hell are we doing? Steve Kerr, not happy about the performance. He looked visibly pissed off in like the third quarter, but he wasn't necessarily mad about the performance. He's more so just a little bit concerned with the way they're playing right now, but has no doubt that they'll step it up when it matters.
Playing very well. Clearly, we had a great fourth quarter, end of third, and then fourth quarter, the ball started moving. There was some flow, but overall, we haven't played real well. But I'm very confident in this team. It's going to be a tough trip, as you mentioned, 2 back-to-backs. We kind of felt like, getting through this early part of the schedule. in one piece, and if we're healthy and win our share of games, that it sets up the rest of the season well for us. So obviously we gave a couple games away, but all in all, we're pretty healthy, and we're going to get there. I can picture the team. I can see what what kind of team we're going to be, but we don't really have our identity yet.
I found that last part of the sentence pretty funny. I can picture what our team looks like, but we don't have our identity. Doesn't make any sense. How can you picture what the team's going to look like if you are also admitting that you have no idea what their identity is going to be, and therefore you have no idea what the personnel is going to be? You can't picture anything. Anyways, enough on that. Warriors get the win, big time. Had someone just pop in with the comparison to like an Eric Pascal, saying let's pump the brakes. We're being overreactionary. Let's not put all this pressure on him. The thing is about Will Richard, I don't think he's going to be a dude that goes out and scores 30 like he did against Sacramento, but I think he's always going to give you good minutes. I think he knows how to play the game, and there's going to be matchups out there, I'm sure, where maybe you throw a longer wing on him and he just doesn't have the quickness to get by him. And, maybe they're the help defense is making sure that his cuts aren't working and he's got no space and he doesn't play well, whatever. But then I think he's going to give you solid minutes on defense. And I think on offense, he's going to know his role. He's going to get the ball out of his hands. He's going to take open threes when he has them. He's going to crash the glass. He's going to make it difficult, tip it around. So anyways, let's continue with the conversation. I want to get into the NBA as a whole, take a look at the West, answer your questions in the comments. If you have anything specifically, since I'm riding solo today in the comments, hit me with a question, and let's keep this conversation going. Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. Yeah, baby. Warriors win it. Final score, 31 points. Eeks. Let's get back to it.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
All right, today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channeling the drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trades stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools. Or take advantage of the new Robinhood Strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's episode is also brought to you by our favorite jeanswear, that is Doer. Shop locally in SF or find them online. Some of my favorite things about Doer, I actually wore them this weekend. 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. Wore them out actually to watch the games on Saturday night. There were some good ones, from Giddey's ankles getting broken to the Hawks taking down the Lakers to the Spurs returning De'Aaron Fox. And whether I'm watching basketball at an art show, at a card show, or at a pumpkin patch, 3 of those 4 things I don't think I've ever done. But if I was there, I'd be wearing Doer jeans. And it's not just jeans, it's jeans wear. 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. You can find a pair at 567 Hayes Street in Hayes Valley, or you can shop online to get 15% off your first order with code LOCKEDONSF. You can use that code in store too for 15% off. Doer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off, or in store. Doer is spelled D-U-E-R. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. All right, let's get back to the show.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
All right, so Al Horford, he had, how many shot blocks did he have at the end of the game? I think he blocked at least 2. Final stat sheet reads 3. Horford with 3 blocks, 18 minutes, 12 points, had 4 rebounds. This is the Al Horford we thought we'd see. You see a shot go down from Al Horford, and all of a sudden he looks about 5 years younger. He looked lighter out there tonight. He looked a little bit younger, a little more spry. 18 minutes, And hopefully this is how he eases into the season. Because I'm not going to lie, and I'm sure a lot of you felt the same way, I was slightly frightened by the way he'd played to start the season. And I know there's more that goes into basketball than knocking down shots and looking extremely mobile out there. There's a lot of placement and knowing where to be on the floor, which that doesn't go away with Al Horford. But at a certain point, there are just going to be teams out there that have both, that have players that are physically able and that are also mentally able. And you're not going to beat those teams if you don't have both. And Al Horford may only have both for 18 minutes every other day. We don't know. The season's young. But to go out there today and just have a professional game with 12 and 4, 4 of 6, all of his shots coming from three. He's not posting up and trying to do anything down low, banging on the block. He's stepping out and knocking down threes. So I like that performance from Al Horford today. All right, Moody and Will Richard are a deadly backcourt duo. Get pods and healed off my freaking team. This is what's going to be fascinating because last year was always so confusing, and it was a tough one for Reactionary Chuck because everything changed. You know, you'd go into a month span where Buddy Hield was legit one of the most worthless players, as O'Houlihan would say, as useless as a poopy flavored lollipop. And then he would score 34, whatever it was, hit 9 threes, whatever it was, in a game 7 and literally vault you to a series win, and then would do it again and would hit 7 and was the secret sauce to where you were like 18-1 when he'd score 18 in a game. So I think we need a larger sample size, but at some point I would like to see a meritocracy, and I'd like to see certain players just take other players' roles. If that's Moody taking Pods' role and Will Richard taking Pods' role and, Pods taking Pat Spencer's role and Seth Curry taking Buddy's role or whatever the meritocracy is, I'd like to see some form of consistency because it seems like most teams in the NBA do. You watch the Thunder and you're going to get 16 off the bench from AJ Mitchell, and you're going to get, the Thunder are just loaded. Like Topic, we haven't even seen him yet, and he looks like he's going to be good. We haven't even seen Jalen Williams yet, but they're going with Holmgren, they're going with Shea, they're going with Dort, they're going with Case and Wallace. They just have their set crew. Saw playoffs last year, like the Knicks, they have their set crew. And granted, the Warriors beat the Knicks twice last year without a set crew, and may have beaten the Wolves who had the set crew. So again, hard to truly say. There are different matchups. There are a lot of players that appear to be pretty even over the large sample size of a regular season. It's hard to declare 11 games in that Will Richard and Moses Moody should completely steal minutes from, someone like Podziemski, especially if you believe that Podziemski is one of your most capable ball handlers. But man, with all the dudes that are playing 18 to 20 minutes, you would think that this team is set up for maybe a consolidation trade at the deadline if it's not working out fully. And the Warriors are 6-5. They're in a decent spot in the West. The Clippers look really bad to where that's a positive. Maybe get one team out of the hierarchy. And Memphis doesn't look very good. So if you were thinking they were going to have some bounce back year, it's not looking that way. Sacramento doesn't appear to be very good despite beating you the other night without Curry, Butler, and Draymond. Spurs look legit. Portland looks pretty legit. So you add some teams into the fold, but we know what this is going to be. It's going to be 2-3 teams fighting for spots 5 to 7 in the last week of the regular season. So just stay above that 500 threshold and stay within a game of that playoff spot, and we're looking okay as this team starts to gel. But at some point, I would like to see who your guys are going to be. Start stealing some spots. Start stealing some spots and make it impossible for us to even question if Will Richard deserves more minutes than Buddy Hield or Moses Moody deserves more minutes than Brandon Podziemski or whatever. Make it impossible. And unfortunately, with this team the last couple of years, Unfortunately for a podcaster, I guess not unfortunately for Steve Kerr, because it's nice to have a bunch of different toys in the barn. But it just makes it tough to say things, because you could say one night Quinten Post was terrible out there, and then the next night you can say I wanted 32 minutes, not 24 from Quinten Post. So this is just life right now as a Golden State Warriors fan. Around the NBA, life as a Brooklyn Nets fan stinks. They are horrific. Truly horrific. 1-9. And I don't think it's a hot take to say they may be one of the worst basketball teams ever when it's all said and done. They're not even competitive. They may win. I don't even know what the record is, but I'd be stunned if they won 8 games. They're awful. They're awful. We're not spending another second this season on New Jersey Nets talk or Brooklyn Nets. Shows you how long it's been since we talked about them in the first place. Rockets beat the Bucks 122-115. Durant and Giannis went after it. 37 for Giannis. He had 8 rebounds, 31 and 7 for Durant. I want to go back to actually our first picks of the year to just see how we're doing. Kolsky and myself. If I kept the graphic up, please say I did. That's a bummer. It's a big time bummer. Anyways, I had the Rockets as the 3 seed. I had Nuggets 1, Thunder 2, Rockets 3. I had anyways, what I was getting with was that Giannis, I left off first team All NBA. And that looks silly right now because Giannis had 37 and 8, and he's been just a machine. It's him, it's Shea. Those are locks at this point. I mean, Shea scored more than 30 every single game but one. Tyrese Maxey would be first team All NBA right now, in my opinion. He had 33 and 7 today as the Pistons take down the Sixers. Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham, double machines. I said Cunningham was going to be first team All NBA, and he's playing awesome. But there's guys like the Joker out there. Anthony Edwards is starting to pick it up, back from his injury. Luka's unreal. So there's a lot of good players in the association right now that are playing some very good basketball. But the Thunder take down the Grizzlies 114-100. Ja Morant is a name that's been brought up as a potential Warriors trade target, and I don't know how they get it done. I think the Ja Morant for Trae Young trade or something like that, where it was just like a clean swap of like, hey, 2 dudes that maybe need different homes. Like, let's see if that works. But he had 11 points and was 3 of 18 shooting. I mean, he was just out there looking like he was at Rucker Park, chucking them up. You know, looked like he was playing the Messiah at that court in the Cage in New York, and George the Messiah, and just throwing up junk. 3 of 18 from the floor. The good news for them is Cedric Coward had 13 and 10, a double-double, and he looks to be pretty promising. Jaren Jackson Jr. is very good. Jalen Wells, pretty good young player. But aside from that, we're not worried about the Memphis Grizzlies, who dropped to 4 and 7. We are worried about the Thunder, who the Warriors play next on the road on Tuesday. The Thunder are 10 and 1. Celtics beat the Magic 111-107. Pistons, I mentioned, beat the Sixers. The other game of the night, the Timberwolves beat the Kings 144-117. All right, that's going to do it for Locked On Warriors. I will see you tomorrow with Kylan Mills. She called the NCAA Big Ten Women's Championship today in St. Louis. Great call in overtime. Actually, penalty kicks it went into. And shout out Washington. If you're a Huskies alum that likes the Warriors, your women's soccer team for the Huskies are the Big Ten champions. But she'll be on the show with me tomorrow. We'll break things down. We'll listen to some more sound. One more thing I wanted to say for the road is that Al Horford said about Will Richard just moments ago during the press conference that he's stunned at how well he's fit into this lineup. He looks like a veteran out there. There is a large learning curve to playing from college to the NBA. And thus far, he hasn't looked like the stage has been too bright for him and should only get better. But again, reactionary. Let's give it a couple more games, figure out if we can learn anything. Because again, Kuminga didn't have a good night. He hasn't had a good couple of games, but how good did he look a week and a half ago? It's a weird season sometimes in the NBA, and we'll keep it weird on this program moving forward.
And most importantly, he a dog.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.